Hi, this is Deb Helfrich, hashtag Redheaded She-Hulk, the globe's original stand-up philosopher, founder of hashtag Wellbeing Philosophy Institute. This is a little conversational trancing prompted by watching Aubrey Marcus talk through his dark retreat. I'm just at the end, talking about the reintegration, talking about not being able to face the phone. There's a literal dragon to poor human animals. I've spent the last decade navigating this onslaught of technology as a hermit. And as 2020 Sherlock of human health, I was about to break down, but I'm going to tell you how this shit goes down. I'm in a lot of fear. And that's making me into Kali. I need to tear this mamma jamma apart, by which I mean human civilization, philosophically. I need to expose dehumanization, whether it's for skin color, nation of origin, etc., etc. It takes just a few redirections of thinking about human potential differently for you to understand I need help immediately because my bioelectricity shot. The wirings went through because of actual environmental poisons. You know, I'm a redhead in the coal mine, a highly sensitive outlier. Very new evolutionary model with this pale skin, 2% red hair, freckling. Oversized me. Then look at, I am optimized to be sensitive to all of the ways that our bioelectricity, which is basically our brain and heart coherence, I've managed to figure out as a philosopher, using my brain power, how to describe human health differently. The philosophical hypothesis of bioelectricity simply states that just as we have biochemistry and biomechanics, everything that we're getting wrong about human health, which is chronic disease, said another way, is a malfunction in bioelectricity. And we're on to some of this, right? Mental health. Not diagnosable like this, not like it really isn't. Mania is gamma brainwaves. It's the acculturation of how much that person has to repress the flow and the pleasure and the joy and the childlike. I can have the best life ever. It's the degree to which that person's culture, family of origin, community of origin would make them feel that they're doing something wrong by creating their best life. By having daydreams, fantasies, Vim-proving trances. This kind of play is how somebody who's been sick and a hermit for 10 years who's just run out of money as I've been self-healing and I just need an investment to finish healing and then to launch a career being this one woman philosopher of stream of consciousness performances. It may be uncomfortable conversations with a Black man, and your Acho rules in that respect. There's something to be said for complex conversations with a redhead who loves to talk to Black men. It always goes back to Africa, as far as I'm concerned. Evolutionary logic. How I got well, how I lost 150 pounds in 15 months after turning 50 without doing any sort of recognizable diet or exercise interventions. I had an epiphany brought on by cannabis and tuning forks and ecstatic trance dancing. In the days after 50, I woke up certain that I'd get to experience living being lean. What I didn't see coming was that this kind of miraculous life transformation being done real, truthfully, authentically, in process, in progress, can't make a fucking dime. And I don't actually know about what to say about humanity because it's algorithmic neglect. I'm not getting shown to any actual humans. Very, 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 very small subset of even just my own very tiny network. There's something that I'm doing as a fully alive, crazy, next level communicator. I'm coming in the triple entendres. I'm doing a lot of embodiment. And the way the embodiment comes across when you put me into 1,250 characters on a LinkedIn post, it can be hard to transduce. You know, you got to be fully there. You got to be just doing a little bit more than the quick scrolling. It's all on purpose. I don't get scammed. I don't get botted. I don't get dick pics. I really can be invisible on social media. Go look at my tweet stream. This today, Joe Dispenza, Matthew McConaughey, Aubrey, Aaron, just tweeting some podcasting peeps. Auditioning for a job like this one. Holla, debhalfrich@gmail. Need an investor, executive producer, somebody to sort of get me to some foster care immédiatement. So I'm going to practice this more with audience. I'm on to something here. I'm on to demonstrating a capacity for adults, even in severe illness, even experiencing trauma, sort of the antidote to current trauma experiencing. In my case is being isolated from all humanity. Produce these works of improv, trying to make some friends. All right, holla at me. I'm ready to befriend all kinds of check writers. Because it's in my heart, my mission now. Is to mentor creatively analytical, life-centric thinking It'll spread to all 7.8 billion people. We'll create the Wellbeing Philosophy Institute and hire a lot of people to localize and translate and just to bring out the principles of if, then, therefore thinking, of finding valid premises, of using integrative thinking. Not just 1 + 1 = 2, but 1 + 1 = 3. This math of life is powerful stuff. And only a certain amount of people need to dive into the Noam Chomsky of why 1 + 1 = 3 is like the answer to everything. Most people will come out into the various levels and just get to the place of understanding reproduction is a special sort of math, and that life reproduces, and that life has different rules, these laws of gravity and such and so forth. Gravity, very weak force, to be perfectly honest with you. And I've heard some better explanations. The ether pressing down far more than the attraction of the planetary body. And then presses down and flows back up. That creates the afferent communication. It keeps us planted on electromagnetic information, charge and information. Yeah. Well, that was an interesting place to have went. I'm gonna turn this thing off. What I was over here doing, I'm gonna come back and see how many seconds that was. I mean, to me, it feels like I took a 7-second break at least. But I went off into the biomechanics of flight. This concept of gravity and concept of the charges in the magnetic data about how one may orient to moving around terrestrial Earth. And there's just so much I could share. One of the things I do want to point out is that early on, spent some time in April, May, assessing coronavirus from the whole bat angle. And bats are mammals who fly. There's a lot of real simple, like top level Google Wikipedia information about, how bat brains are very similar in the hypothalamus. And the robustness of their respiratory system as far as being able to fly is utterly different. And it's definitely not vertical in this way. Okay, so it's I mean, again, and it's like the 10-speed bike situation versus the banana seat bike. The respiratory system of bats have to deal with flight and altitude, which is not something we deal with very much. And it's actually, ancestral biomechanics and posture and such and so forth, and always getting up and down off the ground. Having instead of having all of this fall risk that we have here in our country of chairs, sort of all meant to make it easier, mediate, but it actually sets us up to be a lot less limber as we age, subconsciously, or, even mimicking those people around us as they age and we sit in the chairs more. And by the way, I am on my yoga ball, one leg crossed. So I am perched, pretty well balanced. I'm also able to lean forward, that's why. So I do think my posture is doing pretty good here. Yeah, it's nearly the coldest days of the year, darkest days of the year, and I'm having a little sniffle. this deep comfort in talking about life as I'm experiencing it. This was not something I got to experience the first 50 years of my life. It's so very salient to be my own best friend. But I also wasn't my own enemy in the way that I'm realizing that other people are their own enemy. In my case, it was just all this time not understanding why I didn't get to participate in the games of friendship and relationship that everyone else got to do. I didn't know what love felt like. I didn't really feel love or know how to express love. And both sort of in my purpose from being born, and also just the sort of, truth of how it all unfolded. The gift of it all is that by always sort of, arriving just after all of the fresh baked pastries had been sold and last slice of pizza walked away, it's like I always just showed up for what I wanted, just ever so slightly out of step with its production. Because the metaphor is falling down for me in a little bit because I'm always actually too early. So saying, all of the pizza's been gone, but it's like I somehow I've been up for hours, trekked to the pizza place to arrive at 8:30 a.m. And it is not, forget about, no, it's like definitely not 11. Noon at the very earliest. And it might be that it might say that they closed on Wednesday. I'm always in these extraordinarily exceptional circumstances. I see myself right now and I want to say I'm beautiful. Through no conscious, really design. I never got really safe enough to really fully have conscious reins until these last couple years, wherein the toxicity of our economic system is something I simply don't know how to navigate. I mean, I've just failed. And I know my own continued life depended on playing by these rules, and they were still too toxic for me to compromise. So I'm asking for help, filled with sincere gratitude that you're listening, you've listened, you're going to reach out, you're going to help me, not give me advice. That may be introducing me to 5 people, that may be a donation, that may be, finding me a spare room to just not become homeless. But from these steps, which I'm perfectly happy to share with the world, and we can come back and do a documentary, patron this podcast, have some introductory talks about how I just kept dreaming a future, kept playing instead of diving into the darkness, of wallowing in bed, of hastening my own demise. I've really invented a pathway that will work, a pathway that will inspire also many creators to get creative like this, to invent a new sort of game of life that you can excel at, right? Those of us who are not what we would call secure enough to be free, mostly a money thing. Sometimes it's a physical health, sometimes it's a, emotional health. Those of us who are not at a financial level of operating in freedom, certain decision-making factor that's irrefutable. And it's not a pure economic number, because a person who's alone like myself needs a far greater financial comfort level and cushion than somebody who's operating in dynamic partnership, who can need to process healing and injury for 3 weeks. Somebody like me, even a simple sprained ankle, there was no space, room, support for me to navigate even very simple, rudimentary obstacles of life. I had to be so incredibly present to navigate a 333-pound body with no metabolic disarray, no structural. Where do you see me? Ecstatic trance dance, starting at 50. Really, the way that this body has come on. It's the feelings right now circulating through my upper torso. Because remember, I'm sitting on my yoga ball. I mean, when you could do that kind of shaking, you're good at your hip hinging skills are now on point. So I transferred all of my stability was right there, hips down, and everything else has got to be in its full, like, oh. Fascinating, huh? These sorts of stream of consciousness, artistic date, building your life, this is the next vision board, by the way. Own. This is the next vision board. Creating the play of one version of your life. And again, I mean, I'm really trying to stick as much as I can to the one that I'm feeling is in concert with what the world needs to be created. Sometimes you can have a pure fantasy. Just go all off, I was born in Paris and had to live this life of being a sheep Picasso. Nah. Not even a she Henry Miller. Or a she Gertrude Stein. It's just possible not to make that joke. But being the next Annie Nin. Stream of consciousness. Improving. Video improving. Good stuff. It's a medicinal creativity to heal the patterns of languaging around lack, around judgment, around what's good is what's popular. You can only achieve by playing to known scales, not inventing new modalities. That was a lot of energy. It was a matrix of emotions. It was emotioning at the animal level of movement. When your dog just spins around. It's what ecstatic trance dancing brought into my life to make me certain how pure and truthful this sort of playing is. It's very childlike. I mean, with, nearly 52 years of philosophical thinking, studying, researching, experimenting over the last decade of readily accessible biohacking, being very picky choosy. As a sensitive person, I'm most certainly evolutionarily find the conglomerate of circuitries and biochemistries and genetics, whatever it is, I am sensitive. Oh, world-class sensitive. In sensory awareness, sensory intelligence, having a body-mind dialogue of thorough complexity and love, because there was very much a deficit of my ability to feel loved. I'm so far from, we don't have any meters to assess the actual voltage of love in my childhood. It doesn't matter whether it was sufficient. What was not optimized were my own wires to process what was there. I'm just evolutionarily somebody who was pre-baked to be ready to handle 2020. You know, in the evolutionary scenarios, however we ended up with all of the prior human decisions leading up to a dab, that this combination of human has been isolated and insulated from any influencing so that she could be optimized for right now. It's just in the surrounding society, my special traits were ahead of schedule. They put me in this outlier Michelin woman dimension body, which, you know, protected me so much. But I just didn't get enough embodiment. Both training, like visually on how people move. I have no memories of my mom getting up and down off the floor. Grandma either. That'll unbalance it. I guess it unbalanced my left hip, even though it felt like it went into all the right side imbalance, but it's the right side taking up all of this is the left hip, and that's where the injuries broke my left arm and nail slices down my left leg. You know, I got an interesting combination. I went from all kinds of adjectives. Short shrifted even came through there, which is this horrible phrase I never heard until my freshman college writing professor said I'd given short shrift to an assignment. And using that kind of judgment in pulling back to that level of professorial assessment, I always hated him. I always felt I was so not helpful. Beyond the shame. It's always like, but what does that mean? And what I'm pretty sure I just, for the very first time ever, I'm coming to terms with is that for me, I always feel like I'm judged on effort based on like punching a time clock. And that's simply not how I roll. I'm with all of my embodiment sensitivities. I don't experience time the way most other humans do. Back to hibernation and always eating on demand to manage my nervous system. But still, somehow traveling to Africa because it was it was something that had to happen in my life no matter what else would ever get to happen. And I'm ready to go back. Don't want to suffer from poverty anymore because I have a health condition that I've invented. I've hypothesized ways to talk about chronic disease through the lens of bioelectricity, which opens up frontiers of real research Sure, but actually do it yourself quality of life interventions. If a set of tuning forks works, and it does, 150 pounds, bye-bye, evaporated. And I'm only having to be this raw and honest because I need to make money before I get to the polished. It's going to be complex. It's not going to be, to optimize your health, you got to go into homeodynamic flux. You got to start optimizing all kinds of variables. You got to learn to have a trusting dialogue with your body all the time. Your body is your BFF every single moment. You're alive. It's trying to keep you alive. You crave them potato chips. There's some essential message there. Right now, I would like a drink of water. So the answer is I should turn this off and come back for another round. Harmony is water break time.